Hey everyone, and welcome to the Silent NewsRoom. You know how sometimes you stumble upon a weird fact or a story you've never heard before, and it makes you wonder, how did I not know about this? That's what we do here. We dig up the stories, the events, the happenings that often get left out of the history books, the ones that whisper beneath the surface of what we think we know. Today, we're diving deep into the archives, dusting off some seriously overlooked historical events. We're talking about those moments that, despite their significance, haven't quite made it to the mainstream historical consciousness. Get ready to have your perspective shifted, because these aren't just random trivia tidbits. These are stories that, in one way or another, have shaped our world, influenced our present, and might even hold lessons for our future. So buckle up, because things are about to get real. Picture this, Tasmania, a beautiful island off the coast of Australia in the early 1800s. European settlers are arriving, hungry for land and resources, but Tasmania is already home to the Aboriginal Tasmanians, people who have lived there for thousands of years. What unfolded over the next few decades wasn't just a clash of cultures, but a brutal conflict known as the Black War. See, the arrival of the settlers disrupted the Aboriginal way of life, leading to disputes over land, resources, and even acts of violence on both sides. By 1828, tensions were so high that the governor of Tasmania declared martial law, essentially giving the military free rein. Imagine the fear and uncertainty that must have gripped both communities. Over the next few years, the violence escalated. Historians estimate that between 600 to 900 Aboriginal Tasmanians lost their lives, and around 200 settlers were killed as well. In 1830, a devastating operation called the Black Line was put into motion. The goal? To forcibly relocate the surviving Aboriginal Tasmanians. Imagine a line of soldiers and armed settlers stretching for miles, pushing people from their ancestral lands. By 1832, most of the remaining Aboriginal Tasmanians had been moved to Flinders Island, a place far from their home. Their culture disrupted, their lives forever changed. The Black War is a dark chapter in Australian history, one that's often overshadowed, but one that we can't afford to forget. Let's fast forward now to June 29th, 1995. Seoul, South Korea, a bustling metropolis, home to the Sampoong Department Store, a symbol of the country's economic rise. But on this day, tragedy struck, and it struck hard. The Sampoong Department Store, built just 6 years earlier, collapsed in a matter of minutes. Can you imagine the sheer terror of those inside as the building crumbled around them? Over 500 people lost their lives, and another 937 were injured. It was a national tragedy, the deadliest peacetime disaster in South Korea's history. But this wasn't just a random accident. Investigations revealed a chilling tale of negligence, corruption, and a disregard for human life. The building, it turned out, had serious structural issues from the start. To make matters worse, additional floors had been added without proper reinforcement, and cracks in the building's structure were ignored. Warnings from engineers were brushed aside, and safety regulations were blatantly disregarded. In the aftermath of the collapse, the owners of the department store and several government officials faced charges of negligence and corruption. They were found guilty and sentenced to prison, but the damage was done. The Sampoong Department Store collapse stands as a stark reminder of the human cost of cutting corners and ignoring warning signs. It's a story about the importance of accountability and the responsibility we have to prioritize safety over profits. From a collapsed department store, we travel back in time to post-World War II Sweden. Between 1945 and 1955, a series of experiments were conducted at the Vipeholm Hospital for mentally disabled patients. These experiments, known as the Vipeholm Experiments, were meant to study the effects of sugar on teeth. Now, you might be thinking, okay, a study on sugar and teeth, that doesn't sound so bad. But here's the catch. The patients at Vipeholm, many of whom had intellectual disabilities, didn't consent to these experiments. They were given extremely high sugar diets, far beyond what any reasonable person would consume. Can you imagine being subjected to a diet that you didn't choose, a diet that you didn't understand, a diet that was actively harming your health? As you might expect, the results were devastating. The patients at Vipeholm experienced a dramatic increase in cavities and tooth decay. The study did prove a link between sugar consumption and dental problems, but at what cost? It later came out that the Vipeholm experiments were funded in part by the dental and sugar industries. Imagine the conflict of interest there. The ethical implications of the Vipeholm experiments sent shockwaves through the medical community. How could such a thing happen? How could vulnerable individuals be exploited in the name of science? The Vipeholm experiments serve as a chilling reminder of the importance of informed consent and the ethical treatment of all individuals, especially those who are most vulnerable. The year is 1942. World War II is raging, and the United States, recently drawn into the conflict, finds itself facing an enemy on its own soil. But this wasn't an invading army. It was a group of 8 saboteurs sent by Nazi Germany under a secret mission codenamed Operation Pastorius. Their mission? To infiltrate the United States and wreak havoc on American infrastructure. These weren't soldiers in uniform, they were spies trained to blend in, to disappear into the fabric of American life. They arrived by submarine, landing on the shores of Long Island, New York and Pontevedra Beach, Florida. Their targets: key factories, hydroelectric plants, railway systems, anything that could cripple the American war effort, but the Nazis had miscalculated. 2 of the saboteurs, plagued by doubt and fear, turned themselves into the FBI. Their confessions set off a nationwide manhunt, a desperate race against time to apprehend the remaining spies before they could carry out their deadly mission. By June of 1942, all 8 saboteurs had been captured. They were tried by a military tribunal, a secret court convened in the shadow of war. 6 of the saboteurs were sentenced to death and executed. The remaining 2, who had cooperated with authorities, received prison sentences. Operation Pastorius, though a failure for the Nazis, exposed the vulnerability of the United States to espionage and sabotage during wartime. It highlighted the very real threat posed by foreign agents operating within American borders. Our final story takes us to Australia, where for much of the 20th century, a dark chapter unfolded. From the 1910s to the 1970s, Australian government policies led to the forced removal of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children from their families. These children, some as young as infants, were taken from their homes, their communities, their cultures, in a misguided attempt to assimilate them into white Australian society. Imagine the trauma, the confusion, the utter heartbreak of being ripped away from your family, your language, your way of life. These children, known as the stolen generations, were placed in institutions or foster homes, often subjected to abuse, neglect, and a systematic stripping away of their Aboriginal identity. It's estimated that up to 33,000 children were forcibly removed from their families during this period. The impact of these policies has been devastating, leaving a legacy of intergenerational trauma, loss of language and culture, and a deep sense of injustice. In 1997, a landmark report called Bringing Them Home shone a light on the horrors of the stolen generations. The report's findings sparked national outrage and led to a formal apology from the Australian government in 2008. The story of the stolen generations is a stark reminder of the dangers of assimilationist policies and the importance of respecting and preserving cultural identity. It's a story of resilience in the face of adversity, of the enduring strength of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, and of the ongoing fight for healing and reconciliation. So there you have it, 5 stories, 5 moments in history that you might not have heard about, but stories that have shaped our world in ways both big and small. From the brutality of the Black War to the negligence of the Sampoong Department Store collapse, from the ethical violations of the Vipeholm experiments to the chilling espionage of Operation Pastorius and the heartbreaking legacy of the stolen generations, these stories remind us that history is complex, messy, and often hidden in plain sight. If you found these hidden histories as fascinating and thought-provoking as I did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the Silent NewsRoom for more untold stories. Because the more we know about the past, the better equipped we are to understand the present and navigate the future. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep uncovering the hidden histories that connect us all.